So this is the name here. It's called Crazy Black Hebrew Israelites Hate Mongering on the Streets Competition. It's about 30 minutes long. I can't play the entire video, but you get my point. They're a hate group. They're crazy. They're out of control.
Slavery was the foundation of American wealth, especially in the South. And the prosperity of these regions was closely linked with mass market cash crops like sugarcane, cotton and tobacco. But these were extremely labour intensive. Slavery enabled the settlers to harvest the wealth of their new nation, and all it took was a tweaking of their consciences and some twisting of their Christian beliefs.
It's true that Christianity was used as a weapon to justify the enslavement of African people. It's true that Christianity was used as a weapon to justify the enslavement of African people. Christianity over the centuries has been used by many people to justify acts that are very unchristian.
The Africans were regarded as property, without any more rights than a chair. In practice, this meant they could be beaten by their owners and forced into back-breaking work. Take a moment to imagine living like this, going out to the fields every day and returning to this one dark room every night. Your entire family lives here, but you don't even have control over your own bodies. Any one of you can be sold off at any time. Do you have a sister or a daughter? Slave owners often sold off young girls to be the breeders of the next generation of slaves. Enslaved people weren't just physically defenseless, they were emotionally vulnerable as well. Slaves were denied any right that might confuse their status as property. They couldn't marry, they weren't allowed to learn to read, they essentially couldn't harbour any ambition for a future. Slave owners employed a range of means to assert control, including legislation and violence. They also used religion. White plantation owners read the Bible in a highly selective and frankly warped way. They plucked at verses to justify not only owning other human beings, but treating them no better, and in some cases far worse, than their farm animals. Secretly reading the Bible confirmed what they'd suspected. Slavery was wrong, and God was a God of justice who would judge their white oppressors.
The corrupt, slaveholding, woman whipping, cradle plundering, partial and hypocritical Christianity of the land.
Published Uncle Tom's Cabin, the best-selling novel of the 19th century. It gave many people their first real view of slavery and sent shockwaves through American society.
A slave warehouse. There you'll find an abundance of husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, and small children, to be sold separately or in lots to suit the convenience of the purchaser. And that immortal soul can be sold, leased, mortgaged, exchanged for groceries or dry goods to suit the phases of trade or the fancy of the purchaser.
And God
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rekha HaQuadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Also sincere shalom to you other followers of the truth, and let me say shalom to the elect. I want to go in this video here. I came across, actually I was going into a video dealing with how they was calling us evil as Hebrew Israelites, but then we see that the Christianism, as we call it today, Christianity, we could see the foul behavior that they had and what they actually done. We haven't done any of these things these Christians have done. Now we do know that everything starts from a root. How do we follow Christmas? How do we follow what we follow? How are we doing the things we're doing? Hang tight. Later in the lesson, I'll get into that as well through an article I pulled up, which we know, but I just pulled it up. So I just wanted to touch more on that. And I wanted to go into the curses of which proves that we're the biblical Israelites. And as a lot of people will say, well, I wouldn't follow Christianity because Christianity was used to destroy our people, right? Which it was, but they didn't really need the book to do that. But they knew we was, closer to the Most High. They knew this. We did more prayers and more works and more, even on the left-hand side of wickedness, sacrificing. Because some of us continued, some of us didn't believe in Yahushua, some of us left and started following their own practices, but we still knew, kept that Hebrew, So this man came into power, and the Most High said, well, you know what? This is what I'll do to you, and this was pre-written, okay? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 15 first, okay? It says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, thy power, to observe and do all his commandments and his statutes, which I commanded thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. There's quite a few. Cursed shalt thou be in a city, cursed shalt thou be in a field. When you go into work, when you come out off of work, you go into your house. Cursed shalt thou be in the basket of thy store. We don't even own the stores. These stores ain't owned by us. So we're cursed every time you go into a store that's not owned by you, your own people, so to speak. Everybody else has theirs. We don't. So that's a curse when you going in, and curse when you coming out of that basket in that store too. Okay, we can read on and on in the scriptures of the curses, but I want to just get a couple. Deuteronomy 28:23. We can go to 28:28. She'll be blinded with madness, astonishment, which means stupefied. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. That's when they used. Now you see this Bible is a powerful book, and it has a lot of history, knowledge, wisdom. You get somebody take a hold of this book that is evil. Can you imagine the things that they would do with this book and how they would use it? And it's not just a book, but the words of the Most High. And the Most High, in a tricky sense, allowed them to use it and come against us and do what he does, because it's his show. So you can't get around that. So the precept to that is, you keep reading, verse 48, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemy, which the Lord shall send thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things. This is why we blowing each other away. This is why they put these great rappers up with these nice shoes, right, and these nice clothes and the nice cars and the fronts and the diamonds. And I already know that these people have talent and they're willing to sell themselves for that style, and you're going to want it and you're not going to be able to get it, and then that's when that hatred and that hating spirit starts. Everybody has it in them some form of time, one or another, right? It goes on to say, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Now you'll have people, because the Bible talks of allegories and parables. This is real talk here, man. This is the real deal. We had the yoke of iron, we had the shackles. We went through all that. What they didn't know when they was bringing us into slavery and they was doing what they was doing is fulfilling the prophecy that the Most High bestowed on Moses, right? The first 5 books. Or let me say the book of the Bible. that he was, these are the prophecies that was going to come to pass. So we can see Christianity. Oh, let me go to this site here. Let me go to here. You had this guy, Robert E. Lee, who James White looks up to, who had slave owners. You have Vocab Malone, who goes to the Calvinism, John Calvin, who burnt Israelites at the stake. Anybody who didn't follow his doctrine. So the Reformationists, they got together with, against the Roman Catholics and went out in droves and conquered the Israelites in West Africa and in Spain. They was after the Israelites, by the way. That's why they only went into mainly those locations. Right? They have went to other places too because they wanted to dominate the world. But it's mainly about getting you Jake. As we see today, it's always about getting you Jake. You Jake can't get anything. You can't get jobs. You can't get it. You're not going to be a millionaire unless you do what you have to do or do what they tell you to do. But they're sure willing to give you anything else that is destructive to you. Anyway, let me get to the point. It says, this is, why did so many Christians support slavery? They went in some books of the Bible and bought the Christian servants obey your masters and so forth. But they went and took it on other levels. Charitable and evangelistic reasons. Slavery removes people from a culture that worshipped the devil, practicing witchcraft and sorcery and other evils. So when they went, this is another thing, when they went into West Africa, they saw that some West African Israelites, we were doing sacrifices and things of that nature. And where Yahushua was the ultimate sacrifice, which when the Renaissance came in, when they came in power, this man didn't know very much. He was really taught by Jake anyway. So they took and adopted what they had when they came into power and then used it as a tool against us. That's all they did. It says slavery brings heathens to a Christian land where they can hear the gospel. So you mean to tell me they went to Africa, Spain, various other places, and what they have done is they have paid off Christians, or they've stole slaves, took them back, brainwashed them, so to speak, fed them, made them feel good, and then have them come back and preach the gospel. This is where all your preachers and your evangelists come from. You want to know the root of it? It all goes back to slavery. This is why they said you go into the inner city, you see a church on different corners in the inner city. So you can't say the past has nothing to do with the present. It has everything to do with why our people are the way they are. Right? So in that time you had different plantations who had these pastors set up to teach them the Bible the so-called right way. And this is what they do. This is why Vocab Malone, he needs a Jake. Look, see, they understand that you need somebody who looks like you to get the message across. They're not going to do it. The president knows not to go run into the inner city and start preaching in the church. They set up people to do that for them. Anyway, it says Christians' masters provided religious instruction for their slaves. They just took it and ran all the way with it, man. But that was the way you were supposed to treat your slaves too. It never said let them hang for days on end. Lynching them and let them hang for days on end, right? It is slaveholders' own interest to treat their slaves well. Slaves are treated more benevolently than our workers, oppressive northern factories. So we see the same thing. we see the politicians, we see what's happening, that, you know, Jake is being treated well, Jake has got a nice place, Jake is doing things, but ultimately he's still oppressed, right? This is what they're saying. Slave owners, so then you had the abolitionists who was so-called wanted to abolish slavery. They never really wanted to abolish it when you do the research. They just wanted to abolish the kind of slavery that was going on so they could take and, let me say, they could take slaves that was who had less of, let me say, they might have had less of some form of dignity with themselves or maturity, and then they took them up to the north and they taught them how to be better, people, so to speak. Civilized, that's the word I'm looking for. They took the uncivilized and they made them civilized, because you had civilized up in the north more was than the civil, you know, then you had the so-called uncivilized in the south. Them the wicked, you know, south was very wretched, right? They was wretched, but it's, you know, slavery is slavery, no matter how you look at it. So, you know, this woman, Harriet Tubman, she was also set up by the Quakers, right? You do the research, she was set up by the Quakers. She had men go with her, she even gave her weapons. And it was really just like taken from Burger King to give to McDonald's, right? It was all about business, it was all about property, you know? And if you can make the slaves want to go somewhere better and you're treated right, why wouldn't they go? Of course they would, anybody would. So the slaves from the slave owners from the south will go up north and kidnap and bring them back. And then you had to set up these underground railroads to get them back. That's just a whole new other story, another video. I just wanted to get on the understanding of this stuff with these the Christians, and how it was all based, these churches you see, Christianity you see, is all based off corruption, slavery, and evilness. Okay, Joel 3:1. For behold, the days come, and the time, behold, in those days, and in that time when thou shalt bring again the captivity of Judah, Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and bring them down in the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh's judgment, and will plead with them there for my people and my heritage Israel, talking about the Israelites, who they have scattered amongst the nations and parted my land. Who did that? Well, you got to say it. You know who did that. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. Yea, what ye have to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all coasts of Palestine, will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and carried into my temples my goodly pleasant things. Thou the children of Judah also of Judah, and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold to the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place where ye have sold them. You can go to Isaiah, I think 11:11. And I will return your recompense upon your own head, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hands of the children of Jerusalem, okay, of Judah and Jerusalem, and sell them to the Sabians and the people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. So ultimately, what was done to us, the Most High is saying what was done to the children of Israel is also going to be done to the people who did it. This is Jeremiah 30:16 as well. You know, all they that devoured thee, every one of them shall have recompense. You know. Anyway, that's all I have on that. I just wanted to touch on this quick topic about Christianity and the evilness that it spawned through that. That's all I have on that. Shalom.